Have you ever wondered, when did we, as a society, start caring about our planet? Our journey begins in the late 19th century. This period marked the birth of what we now recognize as environmental activism. The Industrial Revolution had begun to reshape the world, and with it came a newfound appreciation for the natural world that was rapidly diminishing. This was the era of conservation movements, a time when individuals and groups took it upon themselves to safeguard areas of natural beauty against the encroaching tide of industrialization. One of the most significant milestones in this early environmental activism was the establishment of national parks in the United States. These parks were the first of their kind, a bold statement that some lands should remain untouched by the hand of progress. They represented a collective agreement that nature, in and of itself, held an intrinsic value that needed to be preserved. But this wasn't just a movement confined to the borders of one nation. As the 20th century dawned, the awareness of our environmental responsibilities began to spread globally. Countries around the world started to recognize the importance of conservation, leading to the formation of international agreements and conventions aimed at preserving our planet's biodiversity. It's important to remember that these early environmental activists were pioneers, charting an unexplored territory. They were often met with resistance, their ideas considered radical or even dangerous by some. But they persevered, driven by a powerful belief that we have a shared responsibility to protect our planet. These early activists were not just tree huggers or nature enthusiasts. They were visionaries who understood the interconnectedness of all life on Earth. They saw that the health of our environment is inextricably linked to our well-being as a species. Their work helped to shift our collective consciousness, making us realize that we are not separate from nature, but a part of it. So, as we delve deeper into the story of environmental activism, let's remember these trailblazers. Their courage and dedication have left an indelible mark on our world. Their legacy continues to inspire generations of activists who are working tirelessly to ensure a sustainable future for all. This early activism laid the foundation for what was to come in the following century. As the Industrial Revolution took over, our planet started to cough, and people began to listen. The mid-20th century marked a turning point in humanity's relationship with the environment. Industrial progress had brought prosperity, but it also brought pollution, deforestation, and a host of other environmental problems. People began to realize that the Earth's resources were not infinite, and that our actions could have profound consequences for the planet's health. This growing awareness gave birth to what we now know as modern environmental activism. A pivotal moment in this evolution was the publication of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring in 1962. Carson, a marine biologist, exposed the damaging effects of pesticides on the environment, particularly on birds. She argued that the widespread use of these chemicals was not just harming wildlife, but also posing a serious threat to human health. Her book was a wake-up call that resonated with many, challenging the notion that industrial progress was always a good thing. It spurred public debate and led to changes in government policy, marking a significant victory for the fledgling environmental movement. Another landmark event was the first Earth Day, celebrated on April 22, 1970. Initiated by U.S. Senator Gaylord Nelson, the event was designed to foster appreciation for the Earth's natural environment and raise awareness about pollution. Earth Day was a resounding success, with an estimated 20 million Americans taking part in peaceful demonstrations and cleanup activities. It was a clear demonstration of the public's growing concern for the environment and their willingness to take action to protect it. These events represented a shift in public consciousness. No longer could environmental issues be brushed aside or ignored. They had become central to public discourse, a trend that would only grow in the years that followed. The environmental movement had come of age, evolving from a fringe concern to a mainstream cause. These events ignited a spark in the public consciousness, leading to a more organized and influential environmental movement. In response to the growing concern, environmental activism took a political turn. As the environmental movement gained momentum, activists began to realize that effective change couldn't only be achieved through grassroots efforts. It was also necessary to influence those in power, the policymakers. In the United States, this led to a strong push for legislative action that would protect our environment and combat climate change. One of the first major victories came in the form of the Clean Air Act. Passed in 1970, This comprehensive law regulated air emissions from stationary and mobile sources. This landmark legislation not only recognized the importance of clean air, but also set the stage for future environmental policies. The success of the Clean Air Act proved that environmental activism could have a real and lasting impact on legislation. It demonstrated the power of a collective voice demanding change. This victory was a testament to the effectiveness of political advocacy in the environmental movement. Another significant achievement was the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA. Established by President Richard Nixon in the same year, the EPA was tasked with the responsibility of protecting human health and the environment by enforcing regulations passed by Congress. The formation of the EPA was a clear acknowledgement by the government of the importance of environmental protection. It was an assurance that the concerns of activists were being heard at the highest levels of power. In the years that followed, the EPA would go on to enforce a number of significant environmental laws, including the Clean Water Act and the Endangered Species Act. These laws, driven by the efforts of dedicated activists, have resulted in cleaner air and water and have protected countless species from extinction. The influence of environmental activism on politics and policymaking cannot be overstated. Activists have shown that they can make a difference by rallying public support, influencing politicians, and pushing for legislation. Their work has led to concrete steps being taken to protect our planet. These political advancements show that activism can lead to tangible change. In the 21st century, a new challenge has emerged: climate change. This is the battle cry of our times, a call to arms for environmental activists worldwide. The focus of activism has shifted significantly in recent years as the threat of a warming planet has become impossible to ignore. Climate change has rapidly become the epicenter of environmental advocacy, transcending borders and uniting people under a common cause. This heightened awareness and concern are largely thanks to pivotal moments in our recent history. One such moment is the Paris Agreement, a monumental international treaty on climate change. Adopted in December of 2015, the Paris Agreement was a landmark achievement. It was the first time that nations worldwide came together to collectively address the climate crisis. The agreement set out a global framework to avoid dangerous climate change by limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. It represented hope, a beacon of unity, and a testament to the power of political advocacy in the fight against climate change. But political treaties and agreements are only one aspect of this new frontier. A significant part of this movement is the rise of youth-led activism, inspired by the fearless Greta Thunberg. This young Swedish activist took the world by storm when she began striking from school to protest against climate inaction. Her brave stance sparked an international wave of student strikes, known as the Fridays for Future movement. These young activists, motivated by their future at stake, have breathed new life into the fight against climate change. They have mobilized millions around the world, demanding urgent action from our leaders. Their voices, echoing across continents, remind us that the fight against climate change is not just about preserving the environment. It's about safeguarding our future. Climate change has brought a sense of urgency to environmental activism, inspiring a new generation of advocates. This is the new frontier, a world where the fight for our planet is no longer an option, but a necessity. And as we stand on the brink of this new era, we are reminded that our actions today will shape the world of tomorrow. The battle against climate change is ours to fight, and it is a battle we must win. So, where do we go from here? As we stand at the precipice of a new era, the future of environmental activism will undoubtedly play a pivotal role in shaping the destiny of our planet. The ongoing impacts of climate change are far from subtle. Rising sea levels, erratic weather patterns, and the loss of biodiversity are stark reminders that the battle is far from over. Yet, it is in these challenges that we find opportunities for innovative solutions and renewed determination. In the future, we can anticipate a surge in grassroots environmental movements. These movements, driven by communities directly affected by climate change, will challenge the status quo and demand immediate action. They will employ technology and social media as tools for mobilization, making activism more accessible and far-reaching. We also foresee a future where environmental activism is not just a fringe movement, but a mainstream phenomenon. Climate change is a global issue that affects everyone, regardless of nationality, race, or economic status. It demands a collective response. Therefore, we envision a future where everyone, from school children to corporate executives, participates in environmental activism in some way, shape, or form. In addition, we expect to see an increase in political advocacy. Activists will continue to lobby for legislation that prioritizes the environment and holds corporations accountable for their actions. They will use their voices to elect leaders who are committed to combating climate change. This increased political engagement will also see a push for innovative solutions. Think renewable energy, carbon capture technology, and sustainable agriculture. The future of environmental activism will not just be about raising awareness, but also about finding and implementing practical solutions to mitigate climate change. But let's remember, none of this will be possible without the persistence and passion of environmental activists. It is their commitment to the cause that will drive these changes and ensure that the planet we leave for future generations is one they can thrive in. In the face of climate change, the future of our planet depends on the persistence and passion of environmental activists.